Hey, welcome. This is another episode of Hard to Guard TV. I got a very special guest, special friend, somebody
Mhm.
who I met last year, and he had a goal and a dream, and he's turning it into a reality. My boy Eric Cruz, CEO, co-founder of Muvez, the lifestyle sneaker brand. And what's up, Eric?
What's up, E? Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Very excited about this episode. And you're right, we've known each other for quite some time. And, I guess my aspirations and dreams have somehow come to life. So happy to talk about it and share my story.
Yeah, so like one of the things, like you created a sneaker brand,
Yes.
and when I first met you, you was in the whole beginning stages of it.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't totally the beginning because you actually started when?
I started actually in 2016 with like the concept of creating a functional footwear product that would really kind of challenge industry norms and really reinvent how indoor footwear is being viewed and utilized. As high school athletes and, college athletes at some capacity, you were always rocking pocket slides in and out of school, home, back and forth from the dorm to classroom. And we figured, I wasn't going to be dead caught wearing Crocs. That kind of wasn't my style. And a couple of my friends felt the same way. So shortly after undergrad, we decided, my brother and I, to kind of tackle this issue and see if we could come up with something that was unique, different. I think we've done that.
So obviously, the sneaker industry, one, is very lucrative, but it's controlled by
Sure.
the Nikes, the Adidas, the Pumas, the Reeboks,
Yep.
and not much else after that.
Yeah.
So what made you say, you know what, I think I could make an imprint in this in the sneaker culture?
That's a great question. We really just honestly believe that there was a ton of white indoor slipper market, meaning that no big players you named was really dabbling in this environment. So if we could prove that this dual function was something of value, we really quickly understood that we can become a leading player in the indoor slipper market. We're certainly not competing with the likes of the big four. That's kind of not where we've carved our footprint out. It's really a means to post or pregame footwear, athleisure. We're certainly not performance, or at least not yet. So that's kind of what we believed in from the very beginning. In the footwear market, as you've noted, it's extremely competitive. But these bigger brands are more of indirect competitors, where that's kind of not our lane. Well, at least not yet. But it's a great question.
Yeah. So you start doing your research, you and your brother.
Sure.
What did you guys discover that you said, to yourselves, like, you know what? I think we can do this, like in the whole design process and all that situation.
Yeah. Well, there was a competing brand overseas out of Europe who struck stardom pretty quickly, introducing dual sole function similar to ours, but with less functionality. We felt the need that if we were able to duplicate something similar because of their success, we could achieve the same success in the States. And that idea and that concept was really validated through Kickstarter. We had launched a Kickstarter back in 2019 in the fall. About 35 days, I believe it was. We raised almost 35,000. And we were introducing our content to 9 different countries. So right away, we knew that the market spoke. It kind of validated our concept in a way. And that was kind of just our mission to create it. A lot of it was already kind of well thought out. So we already had the schematics, the illustrations, we had everything to make it. But we really lacked that kind of, to your point, marketability, which we were able to capture through the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, I knew you was. I remember when you first got your sneaker into one of the stores in Jersey, and I'm excited. Yeah. How excited you were.
Man, there's nothing quite like entrepreneurship. I had a good corporate run, working for some name brands, but man, just the high that you experience, like when you're working for yourself, is just you really can't compare it to anything else. It's almost euphoric in a lot of ways.
Yeah. How do you feel like since you talk about that, like can you talk about like some of the struggles that you went through to try to get, to try to make this sneaker happen?
Of course. I mean, where do I start? That's the real question. I've had challenges the entire time. Nothing. I mean, when I really talk about the journey that like I embarked on, it's very lonely. You feel super isolated at times, and you don't want to compare yourself, to your peers and your friends just because you're in a different journey. So it's hard, to be critical of yourself because you've made the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate gamble by, essentially gambling on yourself. I had a difficult time early on raising capital. I mean, nobody was really looking to get into the apparel footwear space just because of the dominant players. So that was one. Two, I had no background or formal education outside of grad school and undergrad in manufacturing and production. So I had to, mitigate risk by doing my best to learn from those that have kind of experienced some of the situations. And the best I could do that is just going through Upwork, found a really great technical drawer who introduced me to our broker. And then I found a guy that, a factory more or less that we thought was capable. We sent them a deposit. We sent them samples for them to tell us a couple of months later that like this project was impossible, that there's no way that a shoe can fit into another shoe. And, but we didn't want to hear that because we created a prototype in our garage with household products. I mean, we went to a convenience and hardware store. We got the rubber injection foam, the rising foam we needed. We casted my foot. And then we made like a DIY prototype just to prove that, yeah, it was possible. You just had to kind of challenge industry norms and figure out the engineering that would, I guess, allow this functionality to exist. So that was challenging. I had to go to China twice, both on our own dime. We were self-financed for a majority of the early stage processes until we were able to ultimately develop a proven concept. I mean, that right there is the entire difference between like dreamers and doers, is your ability to execute against an idea and make something like that you ideated on paper into a tangible product. Because until you can't do that, you're not going to successfully in the product space, consumer space, raise capital. It's going to be impossible for you. I mean, you got to do Kickstarter.
One of the things that I like is that you actually went to China, and me thinking about it, it's like Shoe Dog. When Phil Knight went overseas to go have a conversation. So can you just talk about like that whole process? Like you fly out to China, you go to a place that you've never been to before to develop a sneaker.
Yeah, that's never been done before. So the probability of failure was certainly stacked in my favor. But to your point, you bring up a great book in Shoe Dog. That was really one of the first books I read as I was kind of preparing myself for this adventure. So if anyone's listening, while you're working, especially in the early stages, invest time into downloading audiobooks. Instead of listening to Pandora or watching Netflix or whatever it is you have in the background, listen to an audiobook. I mean, that was the first book I picked up. I was listening to it while I was kind of just figuring out like my sense of direction, really. And Phil Knight dropped a lot of great tidbits, and his journey to China for the first time and his negotiating with the factory and the importance of creating like a really experienced team, helped me kind of organize my thoughts and behaviors ultimately. But going to China was kind of scary, man. I had never been there before. I've done a fair amount of traveling in Europe, but never to Asia. It was a long, very long trip, man. That flight was, I think, like 18 hours. I remember being like 24 door to door. out of Newark to China, then layover, you know, and it was something I've never done before, but you know, like when you're not comfortable means you're learning. So, you know, I took it all in stride. Fortunately, the first time we were blessed to go with Lou Carrega, who, you know, was a mentor and advisor in a lot of ways, who, you know, joined us on our first trip to introduce us to factories. So, I mean, we were super fortunate to have him by our side. You know, there's obviously a language barrier. You know, understanding that English is the universal language of business, you can appreciate the fact that they will go out of your way to feel comfortable in terms of, you know, the language. But, you know, ultimately there are side conversations happening in Mandarin while I don't speak a lick of Mandarin. So, you know, I could just hope that what I'm trying to communicate is being communicated effectively. But nonetheless, I'm there in person, right? Which is super important. You can't manufacture something overseas without going there for the first time. I wholeheartedly believe that, because you can only communicate so much through Skype and through email, opposed to you being there. And our functionality really required our presence and our ability to, you know, answer questions on the fly, because we needed to show them that we were very serious about this dream, and we were going to make the ultimate sacrifice, and, you know, whatever it costs, we were willing to pay the price. So, you know, if you're going to produce something out of state, or I mean more or less out of the country, I would advise you to visit the factory. It can go a long way in terms of relationship building. They really value your time and your energy, and it's going to really benefit you in the long run. And everything we do is long-term oriented. Nothing is ever short-sighted.
Did you rely on any, you know, mentors, or did you learn pretty much everything on the go, and you didn't really have that mentorship to you know, to the whole process?
Man, that's another great question. Let me see. You know, honestly, I did have a mentor in Lou. You know, Lou really was there for us, and for me in particular, for a lot of the production questions. Without him, I really can't envision us being in his position. I mean, ultimately, because he took us in as if we were family really early on. So, you know, the matter of comfortability that we shared, the fact that he believed in us, not really known us for too long, and wanted us to succeed ultimately, led to our success. And in business, you know, unfortunately, I really haven't had, you know, an advisor, a mentor per se. I do, though, bounce questions off those that are in my immediate circle. So our private investor, Pat McGowan, out of McGowan Builders, East Rutherford, is someone who I routinely speak with. Our attorney, for legal counsel, just, you know, he's really experienced a lot of different areas, seen a lot. So I kind of lean on those that I've surrounded myself with. But a lot of it, man, is intuition. You know, I mean, you walk a fine line in entrepreneurship between like being overly optimistic and being a realist. You know, that's a tightrope right there. So you have to be able to kind of navigate or course redirect when you're overly optimistic, or when, you know, there's a sense of pessimism, because as an entrepreneur, you know, you always want to be optimistic. You always want to see the positive in every result, but at the same time, you have to stay grounded and, you know, plan for plan B or plan C. And any execution that, you know, you're going to leverage, you got to make sure that it's realistic. Your ideas and your concept has to be rooted in realism, or else you're going to have a rude awakening. You know, you're going to be overcommitting time and energy to the wrong resources, and instead, you know, not looking at it holistically. You know, you really need the full picture before you take any step, and be rooted in data, be rooted in what you can prove rather than assumption, because that can get you in a lot of trouble real quick, because money's a valuable resource. Mm-hmm. And you don't have a lot of it when you're a really small company like, you know, like us and those that have experienced similar success. You know, you really have to value your efforts and resources on consumer relations, you know, delivering a great product, working with a warehouse that can, you know, fulfill demand. So there's a lot of steps you need to take, but in the same breath, like, you know, rely on yourself, because you got here for a reason. So, don't doubt yourself too much. Try and rely on again, intuition, because it's critically important, and always learn. Always learn. I mean, we downloaded Masterclass. I start my mornings off just by watching MSNBC, CNN, Morning Brew. I watch
the news.
yeah. You can't be sucked into one network, because they have a biased agenda, as you understand. So you have to be kind of everywhere and take information, interpret that as you want to. But always be a student.
Yeah. So now you start this Kickstarter program last year. You was able to raise $35,000. Mm-hmm. How did that fuel you to get to the next level?
Ooh. Well, it was funny. Well, it was ironic in terms of timeline, because my journey was mirrored by destiny, honestly. I was pretty much, I always wanted to kind of be my own boss. And I thought I could be it, but was never, really pushed to do that until kind of fate aligned. And, we launched a Kickstarter, not really knowing when we would tape for Shark Tank, which was a couple months ago, back really almost a year ago. And the day we concluded the campaign was a day before we taped for Shark Tank officially. So, we were able to walk in the tank with another $35,000 in sales, rather than walking in there with $30,000 and being laughed right out of the building and wasted everyone's time. We were able to go in there like, listen, we've done $80,000 in sales in just 14 months, which, is not great, but it's so much
bad either.
It's not bad either. Yeah. And it's a lot better than 35, So once we were invited, to audition for Shark Tank, that's when my anxiety kind of set in, and I was on a mission to raise revenue or increase revenue in a short period of time, because I didn't know what day we were going to tape. I had an idea of the calendar, but I didn't know officially. And, being able to walk into the tank saying that we had generated $85,000 in sales in less than 12 months was something that, was a confidence builder, because the Sharks, they've seen thousands of pitches. They can read right through you if you're nervous, if you're anxious, if you're confident. And, again, everything's a fine line. And we walked there being confident, but not overconfident. We thought we had a great product that was relatively unseen in a lot of markets. And if we could project and distribute kind of what we were selling to the masses, we understood that, we could do fairly well. So, that $35,000 Kickstarter really meant everything to us, because I don't think I'd be sitting here, with a deal. Honestly, I feel like I would have wasted everyone's time. And that was something that I refused to do.
So I said, I just want to talk about the influence of Shark Tank. So you guys go on Shark Tank. After the Shark Tank is over, Damon John decides to jump on board. You guys choose him. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the impact, what it did for the company?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it really pushed our company maybe 3 to 5 years into the future in terms of revenue generation, and how we're able to move, hiring paid agencies, hiring an email marketing agency to kind of bolster our efforts in terms of, all social media distribution. I don't have to be the model anymore. There was some time where I was modeling my own stuff, and there's no shame in that. Absolutely no shame. You have to do what's necessary. I mean, my brother and I remember vividly, maybe last summer, I was walking the High Line in our shoes.
I joked around with you one time we were together. I was like, "Are you taking all these pictures on your phone?"
And I probably said no. Yeah. But honestly, I was. It was just my brother and I. Really, I mean, I remember this one opportunity. Like, I had a bag of shoes of all our colorways: blue, gray, black, and red. And I had like 5 different outfits, bro. So I'm walking into Starbucks, going in their bathroom and changing my outfits, right? And I would make sure that Ryan was only capturing me from the chest down, so you didn't really see my face, so you didn't know who was the model. But there was times where I was like the model for 6 months. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all were in a lot of ways, but for some reason, like, I didn't have the creativity behind the camera. Ryan did, so we were walking the High Line. for hours. And you know what's funny? We ended up losing the memory card, so all that was for nothing. Which, like, you know, we still joke about. But I remember telling him that, listen, man, you know, there's gonna be a time that we're gonna miss doing this because we don't have to do anymore. You know, but right now, like, it's necessary and it's required in order for us to push the business forward. So, you know, looking back on it, I mean, and that's only a year removed. And this Shark Tank certainly pushed us 3 years in advance. Again,
so after the show, how much?
Yeah.
What percentage of sales did the company, you know, did you guys produce?
I mean, in the percentage, over 1,000%. I mean, you know, yeah, we did 100,000, about 107,000 all of 2019. I mean, we did 107,000 within 30 days. You know, and that's
how did that make you feel?
You know, just sense of validation, I guess, was an overwhelming response. I mean, the air date, we were so inundated with customer inquiries and fielding Instagram DMs and comments and trying to, you know, capture an Instagram live that it was almost like a blur. I really don't remember like how I felt in a way, just because I knew there was work to be done. But, you know, when I do have time to reflect on how far we've come, I certainly appreciate the opportunity that was given to us, because Shark Tank is the gift that keeps on giving and really gave us the chance that we needed to succeed. But, you know, I'm appreciative, you know, not only for the opportunity, but like for my parents who believed in me early on, you know, for my family who's always stuck by me. They never really questioned my thought process or my message or my philosophy. They always believed that we were going to achieve a level of success. And, you know, when I look on it, it is really cool what we're building. You know, the members of our team are really appreciative of the opportunity to be a part of this brand that we're creating. You know, it's super inclusive. You know, every idea is a great idea. You know, no is really not in our vocabulary, really, you know, internally at least. You know, we want to experiment, we're learning. You know, we take every opinion or criticism to heart, and we try to get better each and every day. And, you know, it's really cool, honestly. It's something that, you know, I hope everyone can feel, you know, if they're just starting out or they're considering going on this journey of entrepreneurship, or, you know, may have been furlonged because of the pandemic, and, you know, they're really seriously considering this as a revenue stream, because it's super gratifying, but it's really hard, you know, and you have to be super passionate about what you're building, the product that you're producing, because any sane person is gonna quit. I mean, honest to God, like, you have to be obsessive about it in a lot of ways. I mean, eat, drink it, sleep it. I mean, that's the first thing I think about when I wake up, the last thing I think about before I go to sleep. I work over the weekends. I mean, there's no downtime, you know? So before you take the leap of faith, I mean, just audit your passion for the project. Make sure that you're willing to sacrifice, I guess, like everything, you know? I mean, your time, your energy, loved ones, time with loved ones, your bank account. You got to be able and willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, you know, and you know, surround yourself with great people. I remember meeting you for the first time, and, like, you know, you being like, yeah, I love the product, but the design. I'm like, I hear you, man, but listen, man, there's such a bigger picture. But, like, you know, after that meeting, I left with, like, okay, I think he's on my side. I think I convinced him to see, you know, past the immediate kind of nuanced look and the minimalism of it, but the kind of the beauty in the idea. And, you know, I never really got to thank you for believing in us, like, after the first meeting, you know, encouraging us to create these really cool, I guess, mock-ups of Yankees and
mock-ups of money.
You know, and that, you know, fueled us for the possibility. Because, you know, even at that time, we were still mirrored with challenges. It's never been easy, and to this day, it's not easy. If anything, it's gotten harder. But, you know, having the possibility and speaking things into existence is so critical. And, you know, we were ideating about what a New York Yankees look like, you know, what a Kobe Bryant would look like, you know, before unfortunately his passing, and Laker colorways. And we're like, man, would be so dope if we were able to do this, and I never really thanked you for that, but you may have not noticed or recognized or even realized the importance that, then the fuel that it fueled for us for quite some time, because again, we were kind of still in this like a bleak kind of place where we didn't really know where we fit, if this is even going to work out, but the creativity, re-energized us in a lot of ways.
I appreciate that. So one of the things that like I always appreciate is that, when you're an entrepreneur, you learn how to adapt. You have to.
Yeah.
And obviously with the pandemic, which hit everybody,
Yep.
People with money, people who don't have money, just hit people.
Right.
How were you able to, you had to like sit down and figure things out? How did that impact you?
Yeah. Well, our supply chain was just dismantled. We import product overseas, so ports were closed, manufacturing was closed. We had to circumvent and make really quick judgment calls on what was realistic. So, right before Shark Tank, I tried to get in touch with our factory, but, again, they were closed due to the pandemic. So, we had to reserve production windows in advance. I had to place deposits, for that window, because once they reopened, they understood that there was going to be a high demand in production. Had to discuss nuances and the revisions that we wanted to make. Had to upgrade our warehouse capacity, because the one we were with really couldn't handle the level of volume that we were expecting. At that period, there was downtime in terms of production. So, you have to communicate with your customers, let them know exactly what's going on. At the same time, you want to reverse engineer the destination. And what that means essentially is, if you have the end goal, now reverse back and how did you get there in the most simplest terms. So the way I could re-envision reaching mass audiences is by now outsourcing our paid media strategy. So we had to reach out to a handful of paid social agencies, interview them, ask them for referrals and KPIs and case studies, so that you can compare everyone on an equal playing field, because that's going to take some time to vet, and you want to make a decision based on everyone's opinions. You as a small business, you want to be a democracy, but at the same time, you want to remind those that follow you that, at the end of the day, as a CEO, you have to make the decision, whether that's to choose one agency over the other for a reason, only that you feel confident in, or you foresee certain things happening. That's why, I'm able to rely on my tuition in a way, because ultimately, very fortunately, I've been able to make the right decisions in big spots. So I don't really too much I can guess where I'm headed, because I have a good understanding of kind of how things work in the business outside of, the immediate impact. So, the pandemic challenged us in a lot of ways. We had to rely on, again, just getting better at the end of the day. Like, this was a time for everyone, whether you're in business for 10 years or business for 5 months, to internalize what's going on, reflect on business operations, and how can you effectively get better and optimize in any element of the business, whether it's customer service, email marketing, paid, organic, social media. Like, how can you do better, and how can you be better? And, as the pandemic was impacting our communities, we figured, okay, listen, we want to give back to the first responders. So we created our first responder line, which is a really great concept in its own right. We tailored the upper to match the outsole, so it's monogrammatic, a dark blue. The pull tab that reads "Love recognizing no boundaries," and a word cloud that just is so closely associated with medical industry terms. So it's like bravery, community, love, compassion. And we had our first donation to Hackensack University Medical Center last Friday, where we donated almost 50 pairs to the last remaining COVID unit of about 20 to 25 nurses, doctors, EMTs, and that felt really great, because they
love the shoes.
Oh yeah, man. They were so appreciative because it was so unexpected. weren't too familiar with us and our product. So when we showed the dynamic functionality with being able to pop in and pop out, much like in the event anyone hasn't seen it, pop in, pop out, and then the suction right here. They really love this feature, this ability to kind of ease of use, slip in, slip out. And we got some great footage of one nurse in particular taking off her Crocs and putting on our pair, which, those are our direct competitors. And, we understand their reputation and we commend them for our success, but, we're coming and we want to challenge in a lot of ways. So, we were able to donate a handful of pairs, and that felt really great. That was really rewarding for us. And, we're not looking for really much of anything. We just felt like that was the right thing to do, because the right thing to do is always the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And, we gave without anticipation. And we're looking to partner with another 2 hospitals, at least in the future. We're gonna run a nomination in a couple of weeks for those that purchase a pair at regular price. All they have to do is nominate a doctor, a nurse, EMT, a firefighter, a cop, and pay for shipping and handling, and we will ship this first responder pair for free. So a lot of cool activations we have in the pipeline that we're really excited about.
So now, we're heading toward the end of, the last quarter of the year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Thank God. Right.
No, I know. I can't wait. This year has been super challenging in a lot of ways. And I'm just ready for 2021. I'm sure everybody else is too. We're not alone.
So what's the overall goal, the 2021, 2022 vision for Muvez?
Well, there's a few goals. We want to create a better sense of community, within our consumer base. So we're going to improve on a lot of fronts, better communicating, who we are as a brand, what we stand for, and, really establish a tone in a lot of ways so that, we can be viewed in some capacity in 2021 as, a really great brand, someone who's, again, all inclusive. So that's one. 2 is, reach a more expanded market. Not everybody watches Shark Tank. Not everyone's familiar with our functionality and values it. So, it's our job to really cater to those that, aren't aware of who we are and again, the functionality that we present. And 3 is just doing more good. I love it. I love charity. I love corporate responsibility. I love being able to give without anticipation of receiving. I wish more people, honestly felt the same way, because the world we live in would probably be a better place, in all actuality. And I just want to give. So, it's my job to be in a position to give. So, that's continuously working tirelessly, not taking vacations for my 3rd year straight. Just being, and, fortunately now I'm in a position to do so, but I can't, I don't feel right. There's still a lot of work to be done. You have to lead by example when you're the CEO, and I take that very seriously. So it's just to get better in a lot of ways, really begin challenging, the footwear, because there's going to be copycats. That's just going to be the reality of the conversation. And it's my job to deter them from making that decision and, present real barriers of entry, because I have to push this business forward and surround myself with great people and, continue building a brand that I really believe in. So, I guess that's probably my top 3, really.
Yeah, so one of the things, you're Latin, Spanish.
Yeah.
Do you feel, is it harder for you or have more doors open for you because of who you are?
That's a good question. I would hate to think that, people are deterred from my last name, and disinterested to meet with me just because of that. I just want an opportunity to be able to meet, people and be presented an opportunity that's equal to everybody else, you know. And as a Latino, as a some respect a minority, although, you know, Latinos and Hispanics, we were no longer going to be the minority anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in a lot of ways, still feeling that level of isolation and that challenge is certainly always kind of present. But I don't give it too much credence because, you know, it's my job, you know, to push this business forward no matter what. So I can't really say, you know, for better or worse, that I've been on the receiving end of this factor, although I'm sure it does play in some people's minds. I don't allow it to really deter me from reaching out because at times, man, I don't care. You know, what's the worst that can someone say? No, or just not respond to me, and I'm willing to live with that. You know, and I'm willing to be persistent as possible. You know, there's a fine line in being persistent too, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, you gotta fight. You have to fight for what you believe in because no one's gonna hand it to you. And if you're not willing to go to toe to toe with really anybody, you know, in terms of professionalism, then, you know, you might as well not try at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to be able to utilize the resources that you're available to. I mean, we're living in the greatest generation of mankind. The invention of the internet is by far and large the best invention of all mankind.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of free resources. You know, LinkedIn is a great resource to connect with professionals. You have Instagram, you have Facebook. You know, you have these newer apps that are popping in and out, attending networking events. Now, I mean, it's a bit challenging, but, you know, always be willing to network because you don't know who someone knows. You know, like, for instance, me and you connected because of a friend that we both know.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, being that we're in a similar circle, I asked him, he reached out to you, and then boom. Now we've been in contact for over a year.
Yeah.
You know, and that wouldn't have been possible if I wasn't like, shout out to my man Nate, Mr. Urban Sports. That's my guy. You know, and he connected us. And, you know, never be, you know, timid to network because you don't know what one introduction can really change the course of your business, and it's important.
Yeah. So last thing is, you know, pretty much you started this journey 4 years ago.
Yeah.
If there was anything that you would do different, what would it be?
Sure. If there was anything I can do different, I mean, it might be cliche, but I don't think I'd really do anything different, man. Because all the mistakes that, you know, we made added to our story. And the challenges that we'd overcome in the early stages allowed us to pitch on Shark Tank with scars. You know, they're not keen on people rolling in there and having a really pretty much a cakewalk. They want to hear the challenges, how you're able to overcome, how you're able to persevere through like dire straits. You know, so being challenged and punched in the mouth early on is something that I really sucks in the early stages. But, you know, I try to mitigate the probability of failure by reading, by surrounding myself with professionals, by not being afraid to ask why. But, you know, I guess maybe that could be it. You know, I remember maybe really early on, I was a bit hesitant to, I guess, expose myself or my little, like, to be in a point of over leveraging how inexperienced I was in this. I don't think I asked too many questions when I really should have, because when you're negotiating with somebody on the other end, you don't want to show them your hand and you're inexperienced, because they can take that, you know, although that's a wrong decision to make, they can take that and use it against you. But, you know, maybe if I was, I don't know, this is just, you know, optimistically, if I was maybe a little more forefront in my level of experience, I wouldn't have maybe made those drastic mistakes that I made early on. That's something that, you know, if I reflect, that's probably something I could have done better. But again, you know, the challenges, the mistakes that you've made, you know, are going to resolve themselves throughout your journey. You can't be too hard on yourself. You know, just ask, learn, and surround yourself with, great people with, great intuition and people that believe in the idea and the concept, who have a long-term thinking and strategy and philosophy rather than like a short-term flip, because that's fleeting.
Well, the dope thing is that you was able to turn in 14 months. You turned into $80,000, and hopefully within the next 24 months, you're easily turning into over $1 million easy, as you're probably close to it right now. But
yeah, we are.
Consistent with over $1 million a year in business.
I mean, how crazy is that to even say? It's still surreal to me, because a year ago we were in a cafe meeting for the first time, and we had $35,000 in sales, gross sales, and now we're looking at 7 figures, like, pretty quickly in only, 9 months?
Yeah.
So the dream is achievable, if you're willing to make sacrifices, like ultimate sacrifices. You have to, I mean, there's no, you got to go all in. Quit. I mean, not saying quit your job, but, find other revenue streams that can supplement what you're going to lose if you were to walk away from your full-time job, even if it's a quarter or half. Like, I still drive 2003 Honda Accord. It's beat up, man.
Okay.
Dents and everything, man. Like, I still am very frugal about my lifestyle. Girlfriend will yell at me about it. I don't really shop for myself. I'm just fixated on creating a really great brand and mitigating the risk. And again, investing the money that we do generate back into the business. So, taking draws and feeling like the business owes you something. That's not how you should believe in.
So if people want to go onto the site and look at sneakers or go on your .com, where can they go?
Yeah, well, visit us at Muvez, Muvez.com, and we're at Muvez on Instagram. Cruz201 is my personal handle. If you DM me, if you're an entrepreneur and you just need a little guidance, or you want to bounce an idea off me, give me a couple of days to respond, and I'm certainly looking to reach out and to connect, and pass the ladder back down, because those are people countless times that have answered my DMs when they didn't have to. And if you have a question and you're in your need of some resources, I can hopefully put you in the right direction. So don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah, well, we're going to be at the beach this weekend, like I told you, so hopefully you can make an appearance. We'll talk about it in the morning.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm excited, man. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and I'll definitely shoot you a call first thing in the morning.
Yeah, it sounds great. Thanks, C, for having me. And, this is a tremendous podcast with a lot of knowledge, so hope someone can take some bits of advice from this today.
Hopefully you get some sales.
Yeah, it's never a bad thing.
All right, E, I'll talk to you later.
All righty, thanks, man. Enjoy your night, buddy.
All right, you too.
Bye.